Welcome. Today I am going to be building a repertoire, and it's going to be an entire repertoire for white using the Colle system. And my idea is this year I'm going to really focus on just kind of like simplicity and minimalism, not just in chess, but in life in general. And I do have some chess goals that I'm working on, or I should say one major chess goal, and it combines a health goal and a chess goal. Maybe I'll make a video on that sometime. Um, but I do think for now, the Kali system would probably best serve me to reach these goals. And the beauty of the Kali is that I think I can make a very compact, very efficient, and very effective opening without too many lines, keeping it fairly small. Because I want to try to use a bunch of kind of like memory markers or crossover ideas or kind of things that I can use to help me memorize stuff and also to just make the repertoire more efficient. And kind of got an idea in my head. And so I'm just going to build this and thought I would record it while doing so. And then my idea is to then go in and annotate the repertoire. I'll make the repertoire publicly available. I'll throw it into a lead chess study, maybe into a chess.com library, I think they call it. And my goal is to make it less than 200 moves total for black and white combined. So that if anybody wants to use it, they could drill it in this chessbook.com because the chessbook.com is free for up to 200 lines. And so I think it'll be under 200 lines. And I'll kind of explain that as I'm going along, how this chessbook works. But I think it's going to be a good tool in helping me to keep this repertoire compact. So enough blabbing. I'll start building it here. I'll talk a little bit as I'm going. I'm not going to be doing a ton of explaining the moves because my thought is my hope would be that I'll come up with this repertoire, annotate it, and then I'll start making videos on it and maybe have a big monster playlist of videos, how to play, like an overview of the entire repertoire, how to play different parts of the repertoire, and maybe some strategy tactic stuff, some games I play with game analysis. Maybe a goal for me would be to drop a new video once a week, maybe Fridays or something, for some time going forward, and kind of try to bring this kind of idea I have for what I think would be a really effective repertoire for club players, make it just freely available to anybody. Maybe people will give me feedback, some ideas how to make it even better, and we could all benefit from that. So let's start building this thing. Let's start building the repertoire. It is D4 is the Kali system. And basically, I need to build out all these responses. And one thing I guess I could show real fast, just to show you what I'm doing with this, is if I go back into the settings, I am going to do positions that come up in 1 out of 150 games I would play. So the idea is to not get bogged down with the 500 line, 1,000 line repertoire on stuff I'm never going to see. Only put this repertoire together for stuff I will see in 1 game out of 150. And that's where this chessbook.com is very helpful. So you can see I'll only get things that I will come up in 1 in 150 games at my level. They consider that like an intermediate repertoire, which is where I'm at. I could go up to 1 game in 200, probably somewhere between these two. But I think 1 in 150, I think for the Kali is kind of perfect because most of the stuff that wouldn't be included is not going to be critical. And we can probably get by with the ideas I learned from the rest of the thing. And then I won't go back into this part, but I have it set up to optimize this repertoire for a chess.com strength between 1600 and 1800. And that's where it's going to use the data is to try to tailor it to people of approximately that strength so that you would see people that are between 1600 and 1800 on chess.com would have these games come up. These lines would show up at least in one game out of 150 they play. So that's basically the idea. So I'm going to start building this out, and I have an idea how I'm going to do this. I think I'm just going to start probably right at the top and just work my way down, and then you will see this kind of cool feature that Chessbook has. So I'm going to be playing knight to f3. This stops them from playing e5 at any point. It's a little more flexible than playing e3 first, like you would if you were playing the Stonewall attack. And I don't want to talk too much. I just want to kind of get building. But the idea is my overarching idea with this repertoire is I want to play E for an E4 break. So I'm going to be playing the traditional Colle system. So the idea will be is we'll aim for this setup first, this constellation of pieces, and based on what they do, we're going to go for a quick E4 break. That's going to be our whole kind of idea. So we'll play it almost as quick. Once we get our king castled and safe, we're going to bust with that. Now, my thought is every time they play C5, I'm going to try to play C3 to keep it easy to remember. Then we will set knight B to D2. So we're going to try to support this pawn break. And basically, I'm going to try to avoid going much further than it recommends because it kind of cuts off like how much we need to know to keep it compact. This will be one of the few exceptions because I just want to add a couple more moves so that we can kind of see what our main idea is on this. So this would be the most common move. We'll castle, they castle, and then we play d takes c5. And the idea is they'll take, we'll push e4. When they take, we take back with the knight. We get this mass liquidation. They'll often trade off these queens. And the whole idea of this main kind of section, when they take a classical queen's gambit decline kind of setup, where they play c5, d5, and their knights to c6 and f6, is we exchange, get them to take with the bishop. So it doesn't matter whether they put the bishop on e7 or on d6, because we're going to get to this same position. And then we love exchanges. And the whole idea is we will try to grind them down into an endgame where we have this queenside pawn advantage, majority, I should say, which is advantageous at club level, especially. It's not going to be like a winning advantage against, grandmasters, but this is actually quite effective at club level. So I'm going to save those moves, and then I'm going to go click on this, go to your next gap. And it's kind of going to zoom forward until there's a move that we don't have covered yet. And so my idea here is that we're going to play knight b to d2 early to support this e4 pawn bust. And we're going to just bust as early as they can. If they don't force us to play c3, we won't necessarily play c3. People are kind of used to seeing that in the Colle system. And I'm going to add a few more moves. We're not going to go too deep, but you can kind of see the idea is, it'll show the arrows of the ideas. And I'm just going to add one or two more. We're going to castle, get safe. And if they play c5, it would transpose right back into our main line. So we'll see knight c6 transposes to your repertoire. So there we go, it transposes. So we won't add any more because that's a direct transposition. Now, see, instead of bishop to d6, they play bishop to e7. We still go knight b to d7. And we'll add a few more. I promise I'm going to try to avoid that because we want to keep it under... I want to keep it especially under 200 moves so that everybody who wants to use this as a training tool will have the entire repertoire fit within it. But we'll get castled, and then if they play c5, this is another transposition. So they play knight c6, and then you can see this is a direct transposition. And so when we use this as a training tool, it will keep track of that. And maybe what I'll do is I'll do some training in a separate video. I'll train using the spaced repetition on here. And then, so this is an anti-Colle system. And this is where my idea is to actually, for the most part, meet this thing head on, square right off with it. And you can see I've put some annotations in there before and it's carrying them over, which is cool. But my idea is I'm going to take back with the queen. And most of the time, you can see over here it says how often the different moves are played. So this E6, we will have this, can be expected between the 16 and 1800 level on chess.com to come up in one game out of 135. C6 comes up much less frequently, only one game in 400. And so we won't like build these really infrequent things into our repertoire per se. But what I like about this move is that I found this kind of idea. I made a video the other day. I'll put a card to it up above me here. But the idea is that we're going to jump out and take advantage of this unprotected B pawn and hitting that at the same time. And the idea is there's no good way for them to try to hold on to that pawn. They can't. So we're just going to grab that. We're just going to grab the loot and run. And I guess I'll put it in my notes to the repertoire. But basically, we grab this pawn, we move our queen back to a6, and then we can always safely get that out of there. And then it's up to black to try to prove that they have any compensation for this pawn, which kind of hint, I don't think they really have much. All right, so we're 7% done. We're going to go to the next gap here. All right, now, so my thoughts on this repertoire. When we see the Chigorin, or not the Chigorin, when we see bishop to g4, I want to have this be consistent kind of memory markers, in that there's a lot of consistency between the responses that we have in our plans. So when we see bishop to g4, my idea is to play c4. And we're going to scoot our queen up to b3 to hit this b7 pawn, which is no longer guarded. So that's my kind of general thought here. So queen to b3. And it thinks we can stop there. But the idea is we're going to create weaknesses. If they play b6, they create some light squared weaknesses. Otherwise, they might play like queen to c8. But the thing to note is it kind of draws arrows here. And my idea is I'll put some of this in the annotations when I annotate the files, is we broke the pin of this knight. And so the knight can now go to e5. And you can imagine if they play b6, this knight to e5 move can be very nettlesome, because that knight then is ready to jump in and take pounce on some of these weaknesses that they've created on the light squares. And so that's our kind of key memory marker. We're going to play c4, get our queen out to b3, and there's going to be kind of a theme in our repertoire, is that when this bishop leaves its home on c8, it leaves the protection away from b7, and we're going to jump out and try to hit on that b7 square with the queen. So we'll do the same thing here. It doesn't change. We're still going to hit that same weakness. It doesn't think that at our level we need to drill it any further than that. And for the most part, I'm really going to try to defer to the judgment of this chessbook.com's algorithm. And unless I think it's very thematic, like I did in the first one, not thematic, but like something that I think we need to go a little bit deeper to really understand what we're trying to do, then I'll go a little bit deeper. But I want to keep this thing very, very efficient and compact for the purposes of learning it and drilling it. And if I do videos on games, then we'll get deeper into it and talk about and try to learn it together as I gain experience in these lines. So we're already 10% of the way done with the repertoire. All right, so here they are playing the Chigorin. And my thought on the Chigorin, I spent a little time looking at different stuff. Originally, I thought maybe I'd play c4. But I think to make things compact and easy to play, we're going to play bishop to b5. And then a quick c4 follow-up. And I'm going to add a couple more moves because I want to just get in there that we want to follow up with c4. So you can see there's a number of different moves they can play. But regardless, we're gonna hit with c4, and then we'll get a game that's fairly easy to play. And the other idea is if they, whenever they play e6, will probably play a3 to keep their knight and their bishop off of b4 potentially. But this is good enough for now. All right, now we come into these lines where they play a really quick c5. And I want to, unless there's a really good reason not to, I want to always meet c5 with c3. And the idea is if they don't move this e pawn, once we play c3, we're ready to play b4. Or actually, we're ready to do e takes, a d takes c, take the c pawn, and then play b4 and hang on to that pawn. So you can see knight c6 is the most likely follow-up. Now, notice, like, you'll see this played a lot, and I think it's because this is an effective way to play against the London system. But in the Colle system, we have not moved this bishop yet. So these early queen to b6, moves by black aren't as effective against the Colle. So here, we can just grab that pawn and hang on to it because they haven't played e6. They're neglecting their development, trying to pressure the center like they do when they play against the London system to try to get pressure down towards b2. But here, we're just going to grab it and hold on to it. The idea is we play b4, right? So we don't want to get bogged down. We can make a couple notes when I annotate it. But at least initially, I don't want to go much deeper than it recommends in any of these lines. All right, so now here we might get at this from a different move order. We could get this where they play knight to f6 and then g6. Actually, we probably won't because we'll get there a little different way. Our knight will already be on d2, but the same idea will apply. So when players that we play the Grunfeld system, their idea is to get castled and then play c5, try to rip apart the center, open things up, and get their pieces active. And so a good way, a high school friend of mine told me about this a long time ago. He's had very good luck with this, and then I've seen it. A number of other people will take this approach too. It's a bit less common. Sometimes they'll play it later, but we're just going to play it right away. We're going to play b4 and prevent black from playing c5 easily. And our idea will be is we'll just try to get all these queenside pawns moving forward. We'll put our knight on d2 to support the c4. We'll play like a4, bishop to a3, and we'll just try to get a lot of stuff going on the queen side. Look at that. We're an eighth of the way through already. Crazy. All right. So, it's going to have us go a little bit deeper, I guess. So I like to do this knight b to d2 because then we will get this set up as a transposition later. We'll see it when we get there. But you can see it kind of shows us what our plans are, right? And it's kind of just what I was saying. We're, of course, going to get castled. Then we can play like c4. It's supported by this knight. Play a4, bishop a3, and try to get things rolling over there on the queen side. But you see how fast we can make a repertoire on this thing? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play bishop to d3. This is kind of, they're playing the Slav, and we'll probably end up playing c4. because that's generally what we'll be playing against this Slav. But for now, let's just keep their bishop off of f5. And now, I think it might be worth adding a couple more moves on this. They're likely going to play bishop to g4 here. And that we're going to kind of do it. We're going to play for a quick c4 and getting our queen out to b3. So I'm just going to do like maybe 2 more moves. And then we know it's kind of consistent. Like when they play these bishop to g4 things, we know we're going to play c4, queen to b3, and then we have our idea. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of overlap of ideas in this repertoire, and that's what's going to help it stay compact. And I am going to go just slightly further, not very far, but because this will help me. I think this is an important thing to have in the annotated file for everybody to have, is when we get these Mexican standoff of queens here. The thing to know is that you do not want to be the one. It's just like a Mexican standoff. You don't want to be the first one to like flinch. So we want them to take our queen so we can take back with the A pawn and open up that file for our rook and then ram that B pawn up the board. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play C5 and induce black to capture. So, and I think we can save it there. This will come up a lot, so I'll be having a lot of games probably, and we'll talk about this in videos. And so, like I said, we want to keep this thing compact, so we don't, for adult improvers, we don't want to memorize all kinds of stuff we're not likely going to see. But like, I think it's good to go just to this point, because it'll help me annotating it so we understand what we're trying to do. All right, so we do our typical setup. Now we can see this is a transposition, this knight to f6. And so we're just going to save that move order. All right, remember we meet c5 with c3. And what's interesting is it's not having us do any more. I think we'll add some more because this will likely just transpose. So it won't add a lot to our repertoire. So there's only 2 more moves we put in and then I'll transpose. All right, so here we're getting the Chigorin early. So remember, we want to play bishop to b5, so we're going to play e3 to play bishop to b5. And knight to f6 transposes into our repertoire. So my idea is, regardless of what they play, and we'll talk about this, we'll make videos on this. My thought is have like stuff about kind of the mainline setups, where we go for the 3-2 pawn majority. Have ones where we talk about the Chigorin, then ones where we talk about the Slav. But the idea is black wants to play a quick e5. That's why they play this knight to c6. Now, it's not good because they block in that pawn, which could put pressure on our center. But their idea is to play a quick e5. And that's why we're going to play bishop to b5, which pins that down and prevents them from playing e5 right away. So, and then we will probably do the same thing. Let's add a couple more moves, because I do want to just highlight that what we want to do is, let's see, I think we could play a3, would be a little easy thing to do, but I think the key is we want to play c4 after we play bishop to b5. So it's gonna kind of be like the same as our Slav, in the sense that once this comes out, we're gonna eventually hit him with a quick c4, and you can see there's all kinds of things that they can do, but it doesn't come up with enough frequency that will necessarily drill it. But we know that we're gonna pin it, and then we're gonna get c4 in. We got ideas like queen to a4. And the thing is once we break this pin, then this can come in here, and it can get real nasty real quickly for black. So we'll have a video, and we'll get this. This comes up a fair amount at club level. So maybe if we have enough space, I'll eventually add more moves onto this. So when I annotate it, it'll be easier for me because I'll know how many moves I can add to it. So for now, I want to keep it compact because I don't want to go over 200 moves because I want everybody to be able to use this chessbook.com if they want to and drill it in there because I do think it's really efficient. So I'll see how much room we have at the end. All right, so we're gonna go with the same idea. Notice we ended up kind of in the same thing by a different move order. All right. Now knight to f6, it goes back into our repertoire. So let me just add that move order thing. That's just a transposition. All right, so now if they took, remember we do queen takes queen, and then we jump out to b5. Now when they retreat, I want to stick to the idea of busting for e4 as quickly as I can. And so we can either castle and then play queen to e2, and I'll kind of explain this. I'll try to annotate it while in the course, but the idea is I don't necessarily want to play knight to b2 and then block that, so we have to retake with the c pawn. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually fine and it's good for us, but I want it to stay very similar in the different lines we do. So I want to try to coordinate a quick e4 break because that's the theme of this repertoire. So I think I'm going to play queen to e2 and then knight to d2. And the idea is if they just play bishop to d6, we could play e4 here right away. I like to try to just, for the sake of this, we're doing this for club players and I'm in this thing, get safe first and then bust. And see, now we have enough pieces on everything to get our e4 plan in. And we'll have a video where we kind of go a little bit deeper and talk into the ideas and the plans of what happens. But we, like I said, we don't want to get bogged down. All right, so we're going to play e3. That's how we do it. And you see this one transposes this knight to f6. We'll put that move order in there. It'll probably come back to that in a little bit. So here, our plan against the Slav is that we play a quick c4, and then queen to b3. I think we could even play bishop to d3 if we want. There are some differences here in the sense that sometimes, if I remember correctly, it can be kind of annoying when black takes our knight on b1. So part of me thinks like maybe for simplicity, we should just play bishop to d3. But I guess either one is kind of thematic. So I guess for now, let's just go, yeah, we'll do this. And then if they take, we'll just organize for a quick e4 bust. So we'll just stick with our theme of meeting the bishops. Here, I'm going to think about that just real briefly. Yeah, so I'm going to stick with the theme of meeting it head on. And then if they exchange, we're going to just take, and then we can play knight b to d2 and set up, follow our standard idea of going for the e4 bust. So I think that will be, I kind of want it so like if we don't remember it or if they come up a little kind of tweak like this, we can kind of just use our general ideas. So we meet the bishop, bishop to f5 with bishop to d3. If they play bishop to g4, we'll go with c4, queen to b3. Keep it consistent. It's fine. We retain a slight advantage, and it looks like it's played commonly by masters, so I'm sure it's fine. All right. So let's see. So we got our same thing here. So bishop to d3, bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and then this transposes back. So it's just a different move order to get to the same place. And once again, we'll just grab that free stuff. So we're over a quarter of the way done. We're going to play e3. This is kind of what we're playing most of the time in the beginning, unless they play an early knight to f6 before d5. So we're just going to keep consistent. Now you'll see almost everything transposes back into our repertoire. And let's see. So here, let me go back. What happened here? Yeah, let's think. So knight c6. Let's actually keep our idea of meeting c5 with c3. And we would play e3. And then look, everything transposes back. Yeah, I want to try to meet c5 with c3. So when I go back in, I'll kind of make some final tweaks on it as I annotate it. But I want to try to get as close to final form as I go through this as possible. All right, so c3 transposes to what we just had. All right, now is the thing where, remember, if they have not played e6, once we've played c3, we can try to just hang on to that sucker. Because then we're ready to play b4. So we'll play b4, hold on to that pawn. All right, so here, we're going to try to play, when they play bishop to g4, we want to play c4 and queen to b3. So we got to play e3 to prepare that. So we'll put in this transposition. You know, we're going to get a lot of transpositions here, and that's okay. All right, so here, notice we talked about this before where they might weaken these light squares. And so we broke this pin, so we can just go here and just start adding pressure onto these light squares. Actually had a game in that just the other day, and I think it was like a 2100 player or something, or it was over 2000, I know, and I just crushed him in this. I was surprised they fell into this. All right, so remember, we want to play bishop to b5. This is the Chigorin system, so the memory marker is that their knight is in front of their pawn, so they play knight to c6 before they play c5. All right, bishop g4, so we play c4, transpose back into the repertoire. All right, so here we have kind of a triangle. So we're going to just go for our quick e4 break again. So trying to decide if I should add more in there. The idea is we'll castle, we'll play knight b to d2, and then we'll play e4. Hmm. So we'll get to the point where we play the E4 break. That's good enough. All right, so here, this was like before. Um, we played Queen E2 in the last one, so I think that's what we'll kind of do here as well. And that transposes back into that other line. All right, so now see how it says go to your biggest gap. So we kind of got a lot of these D5 kind of like ones. So it's gonna probably, it might go knight to F6 right away, but we're well over a third of the way done. All right, so that's what it's doing. So now we're gonna play knight to F3, and one of two things is gonna happen. Either, like you can see here, one game out of 7, it just transposes right back into our repertoire. All right, we played queen to E2 here. Oh no, 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 sorry. This is different actually because they didn't retreat. I'm trying to think what's the best way to go about this one here. All right, here's how I think I'm gonna handle this. Um, we don't want to take this bishop because after E takes bishop, then our idea of playing E4 is there's no chance of that. So I think the way to do it is to play this position the same kind of general idea as if they would have our idea against bishop to G4, where we play C4 and queen to B3. But I think we should just do the safety first idea, not worry about this check, even though it's not that big of a deal. It's just less stuff to have to worry about. So I think we castle, and then we play C4 with the idea of going queen to B3. So I think that'll be a good way of playing that. All right, and this is where, remember I said, I think the way that I want to do this is to play queen to A6. And you can see some of my annotations from before are on here still, but play queen to A6. That video that I linked earlier where I got kind of a corollary position playing the London system. Same kind of idea. In the London system, you hide the queen on A6. I'm sorry, H6 when you're playing this as white. And so, I'm sorry, as black, it's A3. Sorry, A3. You do this, it's like a reverse thing where you come and you grab this pawn and you go to A3. This is the same kind of idea, is that now we are safe. And so we always can retreat along this diagonal. I think this will score a lot of easy points. All right. Surprised it's having us go deeper in this, actually. But we're just going to get castled and safe. All right, we're going to go here. And we're just going to continue with our idea of busting in the center. So maybe I'll add just to the point of where we bust. And maybe I should have done a quick, probably actually more common what you're going to see. Well, I guess not, but if it goes knight c6, we'll do the same thing. But I've run across this a lot where people just kind of go berserk and just kind of push. And the idea is we're just going to push and beat them to the push. So let's save to there. All right, this is just the transposition. All right, so they're going to play e6 right away. We'll just kind of play it the same way. And yeah, we'll play knight to f3. Most common thing is the transposition. All right, so here we would play here. That transposes back. A lot of transpositions. All right, now here is where, to keep this compact and to keep it where we kind of keep a lot of our kind of general same ideas as best we can. If you don't like how I handled this against like the King's Indian or King's Fianchetto kind of setups, there's a video I made, and I'll put a link to that up above. And I'll reference to that maybe when I do the annotations. But that one is the Zuckertort setup, where we play our basically put our bishop on e2 instead of d3, and put our play b3 and bishop to b2 and counteract this bishop. I think the easiest way to play this for now, and it's perfectly effective, is play knight b to d2. And the idea is if they don't play d5, we're going to play e4. And if they play d5, then we play b4 like we did in that other line. But see, now they allowed us to play e4. And so this will be a bit uncomfortable for the King's Indian players. They don't kind of like that when we get e4 in very easily like that. And what we'll do is we'll just play bishop to d3 just like in the Colle, and then we'll play c3, and then we'll play rook to e1, and we're just going to be really kind of solid. And we'll just learn how to play those positions, get experience in them. So we can either castle or play c3 here. I don't think it doesn't much matter. We'll play c3. And now we kind of got our stout compact kind of thing. And on e5, we're just going to play rook to e1. And then the idea is we can play a4, we can play knight to f1, to g3, keep this rook protecting this pawn here, and we'll just get experience playing these. This is slightly favorable for us, but more importantly, it's not something the King's Indian players face much or they would particularly enjoy. We kind of got like a nice solid structure here, which this bishop kind of bites into. We have slightly more space, so this will be a good way of playing it. So they played knight to c6 instead of knight b to d7. Doesn't really affect us much. We're going to play rook to e1 again. So we kind of get into our setup. And see, now it's pointing out this knight to f1 plan to us, kind of showing us where to put our pieces. And we'll try to find some games of, players at least like, I don't know, 21, 2200 playing players a little lower rated. And then we'll kind of see how they play those positions. So that transposes back in. Wow, we're already 60% of the way done. All right, doesn't matter. See, this is the beauty of playing it this way. We just kind of do the same thing. We got our same setup here. All right, so here is where we're going to play b4, bishop g7, and then we play e3, and we've transposed back into where we did it through the d5 move order. See how like kind of compact and efficient this thing is? Right. I think we'll just oh, it doesn't much matter. We'll play c4. All right, so this is this Nimzo Indian kind of setup. So, but we're just gonna do our same thing. We'll just do our traditional setup. And a lot of times like this, it'll transpose right back in. All right. So, yep. So this transposes back in. This is the lines where we do D takes C and E4. Right. So when they take us, we're going to take with the E pawn. Otherwise, our dark squared bishop would be stuck behind this. So this is going to be a Carlsbad structure. And there's a lot of videos on that. And we'll annotate that a little bit when I'll put some annotations when I annotate the repertoire. And this will undoubtedly come up in the games that I play. All right, so here we go. The England Gambit. All right, so we're going to grab it. Knight to c6. We're going to go knight to f3. We're going to meet the knight move with the knight move. Queen to e7. And we're going to play knight to c3. So what they want us to do is they want to eventually get this check in on this b4 square. So we're going to play knight to c3. And the idea is we're going to play e4. We're going to just get developed quickly, not let them have any of their fun. This kind of blocks this check here. So I'll have some annotations in there when I annotate it. And against this, we are going to play e4 actually. So the idea is we're giving away a lot of the computer advantage, but the England Gambiteer does not like to take there and exchange these queens off and just play this even kind of position. They want to be attacking and going for cheap shots. So our kind of idea of this e4 and the other line and this line is to just take them out of the stuff they like. So we're just going to keep, like here, we can just actually just play this and kind of just like force them into the situation where they pretty much can see like what do they do here. So then they take, we'll take, I'll add another move like that, and then we just move our bishop back. And like this is not what they want to play. All right, we're almost 3/4 of the way done. All right, so let's see. G6. So they're playing the modern. So there's nothing to really keep us from just playing. Our goal and the other stuff was to get e4 in. So they didn't play knight to f6. So they're not stopping us from just playing e4. So that's just what we're going to do. And then, let me think. I think probably the easiest thing to do will be to steer back into our knight b to d2 and bishop to d3 and c3 kind of things. Just to keep it simple, let's just kind of look in here. The cool thing is you can hit this analyze button. It'll bring up this exact position in the Lichess database, because that's where this kind of chessbook.com gets their database to try to decide what to suggest at different levels. And so my thought is okay, well, I mean, you can try to, like, we could play like knight to c3 here and stuff like f4 and play it more aggressively, or we could just kind of stick with our general setup, because they're more than likely going to probably play d6 at some point. the thing is there's so many different ways to play against this, and I think we want to prioritize consistency. Like here you can see, like, look, oh, we get this. We can, if we wanted to, we can just play, you know, bishop to d3. We could transpose right back in. Obviously, like, we don't need to play knight to d2 to get into this position like we did in the other one, so we don't even need to block that in. So that's why I'm just trying to decide. I think maybe we should play a little bit more aggressively against this just because we can. And there's no risk. Let me think here. Okay, I've been thinking about it for just a second, and I think we'll just play it like the 150 attack style, because there's a lot of stuff to find on the internet like this, and this is actually a useful thing to know if you play the London system eventually, because you can get into this thing a different way, more or less, or something very similar. And the idea is that we're going to put our bishop on e3, our queen on d2, castle queenside, and play bishop. Aim for eventually getting, as soon as they move this knight, play bishop to h6 to get rid of their dark squared bishop, create weaknesses on the dark squares by their king, and then play like h4, h5. I've scored well using that thing in the London system without knowing what I'm doing, and so why not just do that? You can see it kind of draws arrows with what the ideas is. And one thing to note, and I'll put this in there into the little annotations, is sometimes you want to play f3, and that supports g4, keeps the knight off of g4, and then it's just kind of like this attack that kind of plays itself. So let's just do that. That's the easy way to do it. All right, so we're going to meet c5 with c3. And if they take, then that's fine. We just get this exchange Slav thing. And there's different ways we could do this. Eventually I'll play a little bit more zesty, but this is the best way to initially play it. Maybe we'll add a few more moves. We don't want to get too bogged down because this is kind of just not critical or anything. Eventually, I've had good luck actually playing f3 and e4, the boar attack. We won't use that for this repertoire. And the chess schools has this thing where they play bishop to g5, which is kind of good too. But I think we will just kind of play it more traditionally. I like to just play this bishop f4, e3, and we can save it from there. We'll play knight to get our bishop here, our knight there, and it's just kind of easy. All right, let's see. This one, let me think. I'm going to jump in my other file. I did have something maybe on this. I can't remember. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look. Yeah, actually, we can just play knight to f3. And if they exchange, we kind of get back into our exchange Slav. Otherwise, it may, like if they play d5, this goes back into similar to what we've already had. Same as what we've already had. So we can see this thing is going to be very compact. So we will play knight to f3 here. Yeah, we have two options. Let's play... So knight f3. All right, that transposes. Okay, this our idea here. When they play bishop g4, c4, queen b3. All right, now our idea here doesn't work anymore, but we just go back to our default idea of trying to break with e4. So we support the e4 break. And it won't be long until we can just break. I don't know if we should add any more. Probably not. Let's see. Get safe and then break. All right, so d6 right away. So I think we'd just go like normal. Let me think here. Yeah, let's see. I think we should be able to steer. Let's see, the only thing, yeah, it looks like they don't play bishop to f4 there much. If they did, I guess we play knight h4. But we should be able to steer back into this setup. Yep. So I'm going out and looking at some of the previous, you can see I annotated a lot of the stuff already, and I was kind of messing around with stuff, trying to figure out the ideal ways to do this. I think here, we can play e4, we'll just play e4. I don't think we need to probably add much, but I think the idea is we can play c3, we'll see. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we won't go very far into this. This is kind of an oddball thing, but I guess we'll see it one game in 150. But the thing is we can just play worst case scenario. We get these weird things. We can just do our standard setup c3. Might even be able to get our bishop out more actively. But let's just save it here. That's good enough for now. I'm going to go eat and I'll be right back. Right, we're on the home stretch. Biggest gap. Okay, the Dutch. I love the Dutch myself. We're going to play. I have a video on this. I'll put a link to this up above, actually. Let's see. What's the timestamp here? 58. I should have written these down, but anyway. We are going to try to force through e4. E4 is the square that's a fight in the Dutch. Then the idea is that we really want to get this through. So we play e4. If they take, that's fine. Take. And then we actually take that, play this, and then we don't care about this d pawn. If they want to grab it and waste time doing it, that's fine. Look at their king. So those are actually really fun. Okay, and we got the mighty, the English defense, I guess. So if we can get e4, we just play e4. That's what we're aiming for in the repertoire. Let's see. I guess we can do this. It says it's consistent with our repertoire. Actually, this would be very consistent. And yeah, we won't get bogged down with these. Let's see, where are we at here? All right, so We're going to actually play c3 against that. And then we're back into our Slav. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we'll put this there. That's fine. I don't know if I want to spend that many moves, though, on this. I think I'll just annotate this. Good enough. Meet c4, sorry, c5 was c3, and that transposes back. All right. So we're not going to stray from what we're doing. We're going to still go for our quick break. So let's see. Let's clamp on this square here. And the idea is that we can castle, or we could just go e4 straight away. Not sure which one's easier to remember. Here, let's look in Lichess real quick. Just turn the engine on. I guess the easy thing is when we get our break, we just take it. That's one way to look at it. I wonder if... Yeah, that's easy enough. Get our break, we take it. And that's a good place to save that. Closing in on the end here. Okay. Save this move order. Fine. All right. So e4 is available, so we just take it. Goes to the other line. And voila! Look it, we got the confetti. We completed our repertoire. Awesome. So let's actually go look at the statistics of our repertoire. Nice. All right, excellent. So 100% completed. This is at a coverage goal of 1 game in 150. That's an excellent place to start. I don't think I'll probably ever expand beyond that for the goals that I'm going for at this point. Now, interestingly, look like effectiveness 97. So that's better than I would have guessed going into it for the Colle, because the Colle is very solid and very, very simple, but also it can punish people. And I've been surprised how I've been doing just messing around with it here for a little tiny bit. But what this says is, you may probably can't see it on the screen, but it says your repertoire has a higher expected win rate than 97% of players at your level. So you can see how quickly you could learn this repertoire. You know, drill it, memorize it, try to understand it. I'm going to make videos on the different setups in it. We'll have, I'm going to try to do a video every week on it. Goal one is to annotate the file, so that'll take me a week or two to do that, and then start recording videos on it and dropping videos. Soundness 87. Your repertoire has a higher expected Stockfisher valuation than 87% of players at your level. So that's basically, these two numbers are what people actually play, right? So people can have all these repertoires that they drill, and lifetime repertoire, this and that, and 1,000 lines, but people at the level of 1600 to 1800chess.com, if we just played these moves, which we could remember, it'd be more effective than what 97% of players at this level play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a Lichess study. I'm going to export this into a Lichess study, and that way it will be available for anybody who wants to download this file. But when I get it annotated, I'm going to have it available in a Lichess study, maybe chess.com library, and I'll show everybody how to download it and load it in to chessbook.com. If they want to study it, you could also do it in Chessable. Um, I'm really enjoying this chessbook.com. You can see how fast I made this repertoire, and yeah, so it's going to be like a club player experiment with it as I go forward here. I can add more if I want, but for the sake of drilling it, if I can just remember the stuff I have here, which I think is pretty easy to remember, and try to focus on understanding, going to be way ahead of other players in this rating band. So I'm just going to jump into Lichess real quick, pause it, and just set up a study and dump it in there. And that way, if people want to start looking at this before I actually roll out the content on it, that's cool. So be right back. All right, so I am going to export this to a PGN file. Then I'm going to add this to a public Lichess study. Let's see. All right. Voila. So I will put a link to this. So this is what I'll be working on. This will be the majority of my content going forward for at least the sometime into the future. I'm just going to work on the Colle system. I want to get really good at it. So I feel like I have like a good go-to effective weapon for white that I don't have to do a ton of maintenance on. And I'll kind of polish this up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to annotate this. If we pop back into the chess book, you can see that I have 145 moves. That includes black and white. So this is like a very small repertoire. You can see like I've done repertoires before that are like deep pawn attack kind of things, and so I've already learned a lot of the moves in this repertoire. But I'm going to learn all that, and then I'll tweak it a little bit before I like launch this out there as like a finished product. So basically the idea is to have it free for everybody, and just a good, solid, effective opening weapon for anybody who just wants free access to one. The idea is I'm going to keep this under 200 moves so that people can just use the free version of chessbook.com and drill it on there, and it can just import it straight from that Lichess study. So I'll show how to do that, but it's you just create a new repertoire. You can download it straight from that study, or you can download the PGN from that study, Lichess study, and then import that into here. So I'll have all that in a video at some point. My thought is I'm going to spend a week or two annotating it really well, and then I'll start filming videos on an overview of the system, overview of the repertoire, and then maybe I'll do videos on different sections, like a section of the main line where d4, d5, and black takes plays like knight f6, c5, knight c6, e6, kind of like the main kind of line, if you want to call it that, of the Colle, where they take a Queen's Gambit declined approach. Then maybe I'll do a video where if they take a Slav kind of setup, where they play like c6 and bishop to g4. I'll have one on maybe the anti-Colle where they play bishop to f5 right away. One on the Chigorin where they play knight to c6, and then one maybe against like kind of garbage stuff like the England Gambit. Maybe I'll have another video against the, diving into the repertoire, how the repertoire handles the King's Indian Defense and the Grunfeld. And then the idea would be to do like a video a week on like games that I play in it, analyzing it, see what we can learn from it. Also, things like tactics that come up. I'm going to try to save some of the tactics as I get them. Thematic tactics, maybe have a video or two on those. Strategical kind of ideas, as I learned more. I think it would be good to cover that end games, how to handle the end games of 3 to 2 on the queen side. So, a lot of stuff on this coming forward. It's kind of what I want to do in the new year, give back a little bit to the people that have supported me the last couple years, and just putting something out there that I think would really save people time, get them focused so that they don't spend more time than they need on the white openings. And then I feel like, if a person says, okay, wow, I actually learned like this opening, it gives them more confidence going forward as they learn other openings, because they can see like, okay, I learned this without spending a ton of time. I don't want to learn tons of stuff that I'll never see. I was able to figure it out for the most part by playing like logical moves or thematic ideas in other lines, because we're not going to cover everything that come up, if a person plays 1,000 games. So yeah, looking forward to building this out and putting it out there. And like I said, I'll put a link to that down, repertoire down below. If anybody has any insights or opinions or advice or anything like that, feel free to leave it in the comments. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good one. Thank you.